So I apologize, I do not have a camera crew, so I'm just gonna station you guys right over here. If you need to see anything better, just feel free to tell me. Okay, so when I posted in the Facebook group, a lot of you guys responded. I don't know if anyone here did respond, but a lot of people responded that they were looking for recipes of how to incorporate more veggies easily. And this is a question that I know all Sharon, Marcia, and myself get quite frequently, because veggies don't always seem super fun, but we preach them because they're so high in fiber and so many wonderful nutrients. So I am going to be making a cauliflower rice stir fry. So it's like a fried rice using the cauliflower rice instead of rice. I'm using pretty much all stuff that is in my freezer, just given circumstances right now. So no crazy ingredients going on. So let me just show you guys a few things. And honestly, you could really use anything that you have in the fridge or freezer. Whatever veggies, you know, whatever protein. Oh, you guys can't really see me. Just throw them in there. So cauliflower is this wonderful vegetable that has blown up over the last few years and has become like the most multi-purpose vegetable I've ever seen. We can make rice out of it. You can make, you know, pizza crust. There's so many things happening with cauliflower. So I like to buy pre-riced cauliflower. I shop mostly at Trader Joe's just because it's what's close to me. So this bag comes fresh in the produce section. There are so many other brands of fresh cauliflower rice. You can buy it frozen. You can get it in bulk. So typically I will buy it fresh and then just pop it in the freezer so it lasts for longer, which you can do with most vegetables as well. You know, if you don't have riced cauliflower, you can also just get a head of cauliflower, chop it up really fine, throw it in the food processor, and it's gonna have the nice ricey consistency. So that's the cauliflower rice. The protein that I chose to use for this evening is tofu, just because I was feeling it. I had it in the fridge, it's here, but you can use pretty much anything. You can use chicken, you can use shrimp, you can use egg, you can use any sort of protein that you want, plant-based, animal-derived, whatever you decide. So I pre-chopped up my tofu so that I didn't have to do it and you guys would watch me chop.
Did you use the firm, or is that what you're about to say? Which kind do you use?
Yeah. So for something like this, for a stir fry, I would typically use the firm tofu because it's going to hold the shape a lot better. So this is the firm tofu. You can get it extra firm. You can get any type of tofu, really. The silken tofu, the softer tofu, is really good for smoothies. You can use that as a protein source in smoothies. That's what people will use in miso soup typically, or in soups. It'll break down a lot easier. So the firm tofu will hold its shape a lot better. So good question. So what I'm gonna do is just start to heat up my skillet. I have a non-stick skillet. You can use any sort of oil as well, you know, a teaspoon or two, nothing too crazy. I'm just using the spray that I have handy. So depending on the kind of protein you're using, it's going to depend how long it will need to cook for. So tofu really doesn't take too long to cook. It should be about, you know, between 5 and 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to throw it in, saute it up for a few minutes, and then I'll start putting veggies in with it as well. So just going to wait for the pan to heat up. Some other protein options, just in case anyone, you know, likes other stuff. I really love to buy these frozen cooked shrimp and just keep them in my freezer. It's a really, really easy, quick source of protein. You know, they're cooked already, they're deveined, and they're cleaned. So you can just defrost these super easily. What else do I have in the freezer? I have some ground turkey as well. You can use ground meats in a stir fry really easily, and all of this stuff you can buy it in bulk and just pop it in the freezer and have it on standby for whenever you need it. Okay, so skillet is heating up. I'm gonna throw the tofu in here and let it start to cook up for just a few minutes. Any questions so far?
So tofu doesn't necessarily have, it like picks up the flavor of, you know, of a seasoning. So is there a particular seasoning that, you know, that it actually responds well to, or is it pretty much anything?
Yeah, so I describe tofu as like a sponge. It will just soak up the flavor of whatever you're cooking it with. So typically I'll do it in some sort of an Asian inspired dish. So I'll show you guys the seasoning I'm going to use later, but I'll use like a reduced sodium soy sauce, or if you need even lower sodium, you can do coconut or liquid aminos. Those are like a similar soy sauce replacement. That are much lower in sodium. I love spicy, and I know Sharon loves this one too. So I'll throw in some sriracha typically. I also really like rice vinegar as well. So all of these will kind of go in and make it like an Asian style stir fry, but you can do really any flavor. You know, if you prefer, I've done it with like a meat sauce. Instead of meat, I'll use tofu and grind it up with like tomato sauce. You can just cook it with garlic and olive oil, onions, whatever. You can really do pretty much anything, any sort of spices you like. I don't know if anyone else likes to cook with tofu or.
Yeah, can I just interject as I ran into the kitchen? So I'm a huge lover of rice cauliflower, and when I need a side dish of veggies and I'm bored of the roasted Brussels sprouts and broccoli, fried rice cauliflower becomes my go-to. And just to make it easier, I know Cassie gave amazing ideas of how to make a marinade. I don't know if you guys can see this. It's called soy vi teriyaki sauce. I literally like put this towards the end of my cooking. All right. It looks like we're on the same page. They sell that at Trader Joe's. They sell it at Whole Foods and almost anywhere and everywhere. And then I'll, on top of that, because I love a little bit of crunch and a little bit of bite, because I'm all about having like a party in my mouth with textures and flavors. As Cassie knows, since I doused hot sauce on everything, I will take extra sesame seeds and put like another probably 3 tablespoons on top, because it'll give because the rice cauliflower can get very, very soft and you want something with a little bit of bite. And you're getting, you know, good essential fatty acids from the sesame seeds, a lot of flavor. I don't think sesame seeds get enough respect for the amount of flavor and fragrance that they can add to a dish. So
Sharon, when you're using, can I ask you a question? When you're using sesame seeds, like I watch a lot of these cooking shows, you know, is it better for you to kind of, you know, warm them up or toast them? Does that release their flavor, or is that not so much with sesame seeds?
So no, it's just like it would with almonds. When you start to roast them, it'll give it a little bit more of a nuttier flavor to it. And personally, I like roasted nuts and roasted seeds better than I do raw. However, it does change the nutrient profile just a bit. I don't know by how much, but you are breaking something down by adding heat. I don't think it's enough to say that you shouldn't be doing it, but you know, that's all based on your taste preferences.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And then just another thing quickly off of that, a really, really wonderful Japanese seasoning called furikake. It's like little minced up seaweed and sesame seeds, and that can add a really delicious crunch as well. So yes, I am a big fan of the sesame seeds. I am all out of them right now. Trader Joe's line was around the block.
Well, you know what you can add, sorry. You could also, so on the days that I don't have sesame seeds, I will take slivered almonds, if you guys have that around, or even sunflower seeds, any other, or even peanuts, crushed peanuts. Any nut can be thrown into this to give it a little bit more of that flavor, and it'll make it more satisfying, because sometimes, you know, when you're eating vegetables, you're still kind of looking for like something else on the side to seal the deal. You're still a little hungry, but not enough for like another piece of chicken. So having those nuts kind of tossed onto your salads or your vegetables can do a lot to enhance its nutrient profile and satiation hormones.
Walnuts are actually also really good in terms of you know, a nut that's really got some punch in there.
Mm-hmm.
I crush them up a lot.
So I'll just show you guys quickly. It's starting to golden up like a little bit. So I'm going to add in my rice cauliflower. So I'm using about a cup. I don't typically measure the non-starchy veggies. I'll just throw in a whole bunch of them in terms of like cauliflower, broccoli, spinach, kale, you know, whatever, you can use like a cup, about a cup or so would probably be good for this recipe. So we'll let that cook a little bit. I'm also going to be throwing in some broccoli. So like I said before, I'm using a lot of frozen stuff right now just because it's what we have on hand. But you can use fresh ingredients as well. Anything that works for you, really. So I'm going to be using broccoli, and then I'm also going to be using some frozen peas just to add a little bit of a starch in there as well to help keep me satiated. So while this is cooking up, any other questions from anyone?
How many servings would you say that your recipe is making?
So what I'm making right now, I used about 3 ounces of tofu, 1 cup of cauliflower rice, and I'm going to use probably about a cup of broccoli. So that would be, for me, that's going to be about 1 serving. Mm-hmm. Again, it depends person to person. It depends how far out of surgery you are, what you have going on. So around one to 3 servings, depending on the person, and always making sure you're eating slowly, chewing, checking in with yourself, and listening to your own body's hunger and fullness to assess the appropriate serving sizes. So I'm just going to toss this broccoli right in there as well and let everything cook up together.
Cassie, can I ask you a question? Yes. I've been out for 17 years and broccoli is still problematic, and so, I'm just sort of curious about when you do the florets like that, is there some kind of trick to it? Should you just because I don't know if anybody else has problems with it.
Problematic in terms of like gas, bloating, those kinds of things?
It sometimes gets stuck on the way down. It's because it's one of the fibrous type vegetables, and unless the only thing that I started to do with it was like cook the daylights out of it so that it was so broken down that I didn't have a problem. But I actually like the texture and the crunch of. I have the same issue with not so much anymore cauliflower, because cauliflower is so riced that you can really get it broken down. You don't have to get ahead, but broccoli just seems to be, maybe it's just me, but is there some other way, should I cut it into smaller pieces, and any kind of recommendations on that side?
Yeah, I think cutting it into the smaller pieces, the trunk of the broccoli can be more tough and fibrous at times too. So doing like the darker leaves on the top kind of, and leaving the trunks out, I'm imagining like a tree, the stems or the stalks, whatever you want to call it. So eating the darker green part instead and cutting it into very small pieces of the florets. Cooking, steaming, you can saute things, whatever, to really soften it up. I don't know if Sharon or Marcia have any other recommendations.
Yeah, I agree with Cassie. I think chopping them up into smaller pieces will be less surface area for your own body to digest. You would probably have to cook it a little bit more. The florets, as she mentioned, are easier to digest than the stalk. And most of the nutrients are actually in the florets and not in the white portion of the broccoli. So, and usually frozen vegetables tend to be a little bit easier on the stomach than fresh.
Okay, good, thanks. Because I love broccoli and I don't eat it that much because I'm always a little nervous that I'm going to have a hard time with it. From Eileen, everyone hail. So peel the stem. So what's the rest of the, Eileen, can you unmute yourself so you can ask that?
I think it says peel the stem so you don't have to lose the whole trunk.
Okay.
So I guess maybe peeling or dicing the stem so that it's softer. That may be what she means.
Oh, okay.
But I think, like Sharon said too, frozen maybe a bit more softer in texture. We're making them in, like, using it in a soup form.
Okay, good, because I love broccoli.
Okay, so I'm just gonna let this cook up for a little bit. I'm also gonna crack an egg in because I love eggs and fried rice, and it'll add a little extra protein as well. So I'll show you guys how I'm gonna do that after. Yes.
I was always curious about how that went in.
What's that? How the egg
I
does?
was always curious about how the egg, you know, do they do it raw? Do they do it as a scrambled egg? So,
So usually what I'll do, I'll show you guys. I'll kind of push the rest of the stir fry to the side, and I crack the egg right in the middle, and I'll just mix it up and let it cook right in there, and then I'll mix everything together. So
I'm hungry.
yeah, yes. Next time we'll give a list of ingredients in advance so we can all cook together.
You know, I think you know, one of the take home messages that everybody should really be walking away with is that when it comes to cooking, there is no one way. You guys are the chefs in the kitchen, and you know, growing up in my house, when I always saw my mom cooking, I'd ask her, well, Mom, like, what's the recipe? Like, what are you putting in there exactly? And she would just, you know, off the top of her head, just list a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, I know, but how many teaspoons and how many cups? And she's like, Sharon, we don't do that. We just kind of throw things in. And, you know, that's, I think, really why people get so intimidated when it comes to cooking. It's like they feel there's this like one box that they need to fit into of having, you know, the exact ingredients and at the exact amounts. And as Cassie has just shown, and as Marsha has shown, there's so many different things that you guys can cook with. Like, again, the walnuts or the peanuts or the sesame seeds or the teriyaki sauce or the tamari sauce or the soy sauce or the coconut oil or the olive oil or the avocado oil. So there is no one way. And, you know, and I guess what, you know, triggered this comment is, you know, Sherry, your question about, well, where do you put the egg? I do it differently. I didn't even know how to do this. So I just literally took an egg, cracked it on top, and kind of mixed it in there. And I think there's just, you know, that's really what the passion I think that everybody in the kitchen has. It's just you kind of do your own thing and you just learn from trial and error. But I mean, I like the idea. Hers is a lot neater than mine of setting some space aside.
I think too, that's such a great point, Sharon. A lot of people see cooking as like this, it's a task, it's stressful, it's a to-do, but it can be such a wonderful creative outlet and, you know, an artistic expression where you can experiment and try new things. And, you know, cooking is one of my favorite ways to decompress in the evening, especially with everything that's going on right now. You wake up, you're in the same place, you go to work, you know, a few steps away from where you were, and then the work day's done, and then, you know, you watch Netflix or you do whatever. For me, cooking a nice meal signifies, okay, the work day is done, now it's my time to relax and decompress. So trying to have these bookends on our days when we're really in the same environment the entire time can be helpful. Okay, so I just threw some of the sauces in, and I'm gonna throw the egg, so I'll show you guys what I'm doing. And just a little fun fact about me, my parents lived in Japan for about 5 years, so a lot of the cooking that I do and the foods that I enjoy have like an Asian or Japanese flair to them, because that's what I was raised doing a lot of the time. So I'll just take my egg. You can crack it into a bowl first if you want. I am too lazy to do that, and I really just crack it right into the middle. You see I kind of push the stuff to the side, and I'm just gonna scramble it up right in here and let it cook for a few minutes. And then we'll mix everything together, and it's all gonna cook in the pan.
it's so beautiful already.
Yeah.
The only thing that Zoom doesn't have is taste. I mean, is smell.
Right.
Yeah.
God,
Someday, maybe it's coming.
maybe.
Full senses Zoom.
So, Cassie, can you soak the tofu in like the teriyaki sauces for like 15-20 minutes or something like that before starting to cook it?
100% you can marinate it, and that will add a lot of flavor as well, definitely. So I actually I'll show you guys, because I was deciding between chicken and tofu for tonight. I had some chicken marinating in the teriyaki sauce right in here. I'll have that for lunch tomorrow. But yeah, you know, marinating something for 15 minutes up to an hour before you cook it will add a lot of flavor as well.
And then now there's different types of things. So recently we got alt rice. So it's I'm not even really sure exactly what it is. I don't think it's cauliflower rice, but you can use something like that too. I think it's called alt rice. Let me go get it. Let me see what it's called.
You can also use, if you wanted more of like a noodle lo mein kind of situation, you could use shirataki or palmini noodles, which are low carbohydrate noodle alternatives. And you could make, you know, like a noodle stir fry situation as well. But I love doing this because it's such an easy way to just throw veggies and protein together. You know, you have something a little bit differently. It takes, as you guys have seen, 15 minutes. It's super easy. Yeah.
Could you also use like the, you know, like the pastas that are made from chickpeas or edamame or whatever? Could you actually throw that in that would, you know?
Yeah. So this is what I have at home. It's called rice. It's a blend of lentils, chickpeas, peas, and rice.
Can you hold it up again, Marcia? Right rice. Cool.
Yep.
And
And
it's
where do you
very
find that? Do you find that in the regular? Do you find that in the regular grocery store?
I think this one was Costco. My mother-in-law got it for us.
They sell those also at Dwayne Reed, believe it or not.
Oh,
Pharmacies sell that. And we did a quick, I think if you go back to the Facebook group, I did a little infomercial on that product when they came in. It comes in a few different flavors. It's like a Mexican, Spanish flair. There's one that's lemon garlic. There's one that's plain. But again, you could season it, and it's made from pea flour, and it cooks within like 3 minutes if you just put it on a stovetop with some boiling water.
Yeah, it's very aromatic. So the bag isn't even opened, and I can smell it from here.
Wow.
is that the garlic herb one?
Yeah.
So good. Very good. Yeah, and those options are great. Like the rice, the bonza pasta, those lentil and bean pastas as well. Just being cautious, they're used for different things sometimes. Like those options are much higher in protein, a little bit more caloric, and high in fiber as well, versus the veggies are going to be a little bit less caloric, really not have as much protein, and will also be a good source of fiber. So just balancing everything out and, you know, knowing what else you're putting in the dish.
Yeah.
Definitely. So here's our fried rice. It looks just like some delicious fried rice that was ordered from their restaurant.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for dinner.
Yay.
Anyone has questions at all in terms of like the protein content, the tofu for the 3 ounces, it was about 15 grams of protein, and then the egg is about 7 grams of protein. So you have a total of 20 some grams in there, plus a whole lot of fiber, some starch from the peas as well. A nice balanced meal.
Yeah. What I like to do with cooking is like colors. So I always like to make sure I have something like red, something green or yellow. For me, like a dish isn't complete if I don't have like different types of colors.
Definitely eat the rainbow.
Yeah, I agree with Marcia and Cassie. I think colors, again, we eat with our senses. So you can throw, you know, red peppers for the red, carrots for the yellow. You could even do avocado on the side for the yellow. You could do scallions. Scallions add a pungent flavor, especially for fried rice. And again, Cassie used 1 egg. You can use 3 eggs if you wanted to make a little bit more of an eggier meal. So that's why, again, there is no right or wrong. You guys are the masters in the kitchen, and you kind of find your flow and what works best for you.
As far as leftovers, how long do you think that a dish like that can last in the fridge?
I'm not the best at the food safety, but I would say probably a week. And then you can, about a week or so, maybe a little bit more, depending on how you're feeling.
How does it hold up? Like, have you ever frozen it and cooked it, like reheat it?
No, so I haven't actually done that, but I was about to say that's something you could potentially do as well. just pop it in like an airtight Tupperware and put it in the freezer, and it would last a little bit longer. I'm sure it would keep fine. But otherwise, for the most part, cooking in bulk is definitely easier because you can save stuff, but all of the ingredients are, frozen. It takes about 15 minutes to cook the meal if you wanted to make it fresh as well.
Mm-hmm.
But just depends on your style of meal prepping, your style of cooking, what works with your individual schedule.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm going to make that because that looks really, really good.
Yeah. So Eileen said that for food safety, it depends on how great your fridge is, but usually about 3 to 5 days is safe. So I guess if foods get frozen really quick in your fridge, then 5 days would be better. If everything tends to be a bit warmer, then 3 days. Thank you, Eileen.
Well, this has really been, great. I haven't, I've seen some of the postings with the recipes that, that people have done, but, I think the fact that we're home and that everybody's comment is that they're cooking more at home rather than eating on the fly. So it really does give some opportunity for change. And I guess you could actually cook, if you wanted to, you could cook the chicken and cook the tofu separately and then add them in so that, you could keep one more vegetarian than the other. But it's really great to see. And frankly, it's really kind of, when you think about it, it's like that's been about 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really helpful, especially right now. And the fact that, the truth of the matter is, if you made it for dinner the night before and you leave it in the refrigerator the next day, if you find yourself back in the refrigerator, and a lot of times we're just wandering around because that's what we do. We like to look in the refrigerator, that you could actually pick at that a little bit rather than, something else. You can it's like, you can snack on it, and so it might not necessarily end up being your dinner the second night, but it really does end up being a good lunch or a snack. And that, to me, I think is something that everybody right now is kind of looking for, that, it's something that you can, that you can have and sort of grab. Because, the truth of the matter is, we don't really know how long we're actually going to be sequestered, and we can do an awful lot of damage in a really short period of time. So having, the ability to be able to socialize by doing the online, happy hours where we're doing a mocktail, or having these, meals that can also be a meal, and it can also be something that we can snack on, is really something that I think can really help us. If you're not losing, it can certainly help you to maybe stay sort of in that maintenance layer, rather than, finding at the end of all of this that we're in a situation with our weight that doesn't make us happy.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things that people, associate vegetables with, it's like, just, you either have like a little crudité platter of just like, celery and chopped up carrots and cauliflower on the side with like a dip. But, as Sherry just mentioned, I think it's, we have this tendency to kind of go into the fridge and kind of see like, oh, what's in there now? And like, it's something miraculously pops up. I think doing batch cooking, and, Cassie took out a bunch of different frozen vegetables that she had in her freezer, and, Trader Joe's has a bunch of salad kits, and even those salad kits with the more roughage vegetables like the kale mix and the oriental mix or the cabbage blends, those don't need to be in a salad. Those can easily be sauteed. And if you kind of put them all in this pot and portion them out, you can put different sauces on it every day. So it takes a different flavor for each meal, or even as a snack, so you're not grabbing, a bag of potato chips. So vegetables can be that in-between snack too.
I've actually really gotten into, I just want to interject that I made sure that I had some carrots, like a bag of carrots, and I am so surprised, because normally I don't have that in my office, but having it here, that I can, I'm finding that I'm going to the carrots and a little bit of hummus, and it does take the edge off, so that I don't get too hungry by the time I hit dinner, and then it's a free-for-all, or I'm also using it as you know, as something that as a side for my lunch that I have, because I get the crunch and I also get the hummus, which gives me more, you know, more bang. So I think that, you know, it's, you know, we have to strategize a little bit differently right now.
So one thing my friend said that she does for her toddler son is she packs his lunch, his snacks for the day in a box. And once he runs out of the snacks, that's it. He can't have any more for the rest of the day. So once he caught on the first day that he, like once his snacks are done, he couldn't have any more. So then he knew to kind of space it out. And I kind of did that too, because the first week of being at home, I was just munching, stressed. And then once I did the same thing, put my snacks for the day, then you know, you kind of like space it out. Okay, from 10 to 11, I'll have a snack, and then I'll have lunch, and then this and that, because if I finish my snack at 11, then I won't be able to have my after dinner snack. So I don't know if that might help.
Eileen, can you just answer your question? Yes, we'll post the 10 commandments in the group so that you have a reminder, and we can send those to you.
Yes. And then Maritza asks, is there any calorie-free snack or healthy that can be munched on if we ever want? Very strange on my end, but I can't do meal prep, unfortunately, or anything available in quantity. So I only have apples, carrots, broccoli, popcorn kernels, and I have to pop them in the stovetop.
So if I could just add, I think you got to be careful with those questions of calorie-free snacks. I think it's totally normal to have snacks available, but the question is, are you always resorting to snacks? And if you are, why? If you're always hungry throughout the day, you need to ask yourself, did you eat a breakfast? Did you eat a lunch? Did you eat a dinner? Because what we tend to see in our office, and a lot of, you know, a familiar pattern that comes up with bariatric patients, is that they graze throughout the day and avoid eating full meals with all macronutrients of a fat, a protein, a complex carbohydrate, and then that leads you to snack, and then you're going to the popcorn and the apples and the, you know, and although those are healthy for you, they're not filling and they're not giving you the full meal that you need. So just be careful of asking yourself why you're snacking. Is it boredom? Is it hunger? When you really need to kind of check in with yourself.
Maritza, if I can also add a PS to that, as somebody who's been living this for a long time, is to really stay with the protein first. Really give yourself a chance to be able to get that sense of fullness from the protein first, and then, which is another one of those 10 commandments, which sort of, you know, falls by the wayside, is it is the protein first, it is the vegetable second, and then if there's some room there for the carbohydrate. But I think a lot of times, and if you can also, just as, you know, I've been doing this now for a number of years and find it helpful, is to really eat like a protein driven breakfast, so that, and delay any kind of eating of the carbohydrate, because what it will hopefully be able to do is sort of help you with appetite, and that the protein really kind of gets the metabolism sort of off on the right track. But I think the idea is that, and hear me in the way that I'm saying it, because I'm saying it as lovingly as I can, we didn't get fat because we ate too much protein, you know? And so if you eat the protein and you even fill up on that, you can, it's, you know, I think you may get a little bit more longevity in the day. And then really, you know, and maybe to sort of really think about how to time it out so that you don't get yourself to the point where you're actually too hungry. I think too many people hit dinner time and are so ravenous that, you know, that they're just, you know, eating and also eating a little bit quickly, which Marcia and Sharon and Cassie have also said is about how to sort of pace yourself. Should really take some time. We can inhale it really quickly, but give yourself an opportunity, but really stick with that protein first, you know? Okay.
Thank you.